Hello guys, welcome to our CSS animation crash course. So this crash course is the same as the one that I already have on my channel, but I just wanted to create a different video where I put all the videos together and turn it into one long video, just so you can have options. So if you want to watch a 1 hour long video, or you want to watch the one that is divided into short videos, it's really just up to you, but I just wanted to make sure that you guys have that option. So yeah, I just wanted to say that in the beginning of this video, just so you know what you are getting yourself into. But yeah, with that being said, let's get started with our first segment of this crash course. So this is our introduction. So in this student introduction, I'm just going to give you guys a quick introduction of what CSS animation is and all the cool things that you can do with CSS animation. I'm also going to give you guys a quick snap of what we'll be creating throughout this crash course. So yeah, in CSS animation, they actually makes the way we animate our web page much easier. So they eliminate the need to have like JavaScript and jQuery to come up with a lot of animations. So yeah, with CSS animation, they're actually easier once you get an idea of what they can do. Of course, there are a couple of syntax from here and then, but once you really get an idea of what they can do, they get easier. So in this crash course, we are going to be creating something like this. You see this? I'm riding my bike here, and I just went past by this lady without even saying hi. But yeah, on a serious note, this is what we are going to be creating. I just want to show you guys all the fun things that you can do with animation. Going to be creating something like this, but then technically you can't really put this on a website. This is just for fun, and then so this is just for me to show you guys all the cool things that you can do with animation or with CSS animation. So after we are done with this, I'm actually going to show you guys how to can put your animation, how you can apply animation to your web page. So we are going to be creating this renting page here. If you just refresh, you see something is coming in, they are moving in and there, and then they are coming in. Refresh to see that again, they are coming in, and then your button, and then this down here. So your button here got this hover transition there, and then once you come here, I don't know if you saw that when they came in. Let's just refresh. They come in, you see that, and then once you hover in it, they are zooming in, and then the edges here, you get your edges here, they are normal square. If you zoom in on this one, this, you got those transitions there. You got those transitions. So I'm going to show you guys how you can do all these cool things here. So yeah, this is actually what we are going to be covering in this tutorial. We are going to be looking at transforms, we're going to be looking at transitions, we're also going to be covering keyframes, and then we are going to be covering some animation basics where we are going to be creating these cool animation things here. And then once you are done with everything, I'm actually going to show you how you can apply your animation to your website by creating this renting page here with all these cool animations. So yeah, to take part in this crash course or in this tutorial, you just need to know HTML and CSS. You don't really need to be a master, but you should at least have an idea of what HTML and CSS is. And if you don't know what HTML and CSS is, then you don't need to stress. We actually got you covered. We got the old HTML and CSS crash courses for absolute beginners on our channel. So I will leave the link in the description, or if you look up I will link into my YouTube card there. So you can click on there and then you can go to those tutorials, learn a couple of things about HTML and CSS, and then come back to this CSS animation crash course. So yeah, there are also a couple of things that you should have. So you should have a text editor and then a web browser. A text editor, I'm just going to be using a Visual Studio Code, but there is a lot of free text editor out there. You can choose something like Atom, Sublime Text, Brackets, or Commando. You can choose anything from here. And you should also have a web browser installed on your computer. So with me, I'm going to be using Google Chrome, but you can choose whatever web browser you want to use from here. You can choose Mozilla Firefox, Opera, or Edge, but at least try not to use Internet Explorer. So yeah, with that being said, that brings us to the end of this segment. I hope you find this video helpful so far. If you do, then make sure you give the thumbs up, leave us a comment down below, and if you haven't subscribed already by now, then make sure you hit that subscribe button, and please hit the notification bell as well. So yeah, with that being said, stay tuned for our next segment of this crash course. Hello guys, welcome to our second tutorial of this CSS animation crash course. In this tutorial, we are going to be looking at transform. So what transform does is, it helps us stretch or change the coordinate of an element on our website. So you can do that either by rotating, scaling, or translating your element. So let's say, for instance, we got our HTML file open up here, and then our CSS open up here. So this is just pure HTML. This file here, we have it open up in our browser here. So all this code made up this page here with our image there. So this is just pure HTML and pure CSS. We cover all this in our HTML and CSS crash courses. So if you have no idea what all this is, then I'll advise you to go back to our HTML and CSS crash courses and then watch those and then come back to this. So I will leave the link in the description for you to check it out if you got no idea what HTML or CSS is. So yeah, like I said, this is what we have here. All this code made up this page layout here. So in this tutorial, like I said, we are going to be looking at transform. No, we are going to be transforming this image here. So yeah, with transform, we already know we are going to be transforming this image here. So we are coming inside our image there. Everything is going to be falling under transform, right? So with transform, there are a lot of transform property that you can use, but I'm not going to be going through all of them. I'm just going to be covering a couple that we'll be using throughout these crash courses. And the first property, or the first transform property that we are going to be looking at, is translate. So with translate help us move the element from one place to another, and you can move it either along your x-axis or your y-axis. So but first we are going to be looking at how you can move it along your x-axis. So translate x, and then inside your brackets here, that's where you will be adding your value. Let's say you want to transform it, let's say 250 pixels along your x-axis. You save that, and then what that will do is, if you refresh, you see your image has now been moved to the right here, but it's still along your x-axis. Translate it to the right, and it moved to the right because in here you add a positive value. So if you could have added a negative value, let's just add a negative value there, Control S to save, come in here and then refresh. So you see it's now moved to the left since you add a negative value. So a positive value, we translate it to the right but still along your x-axis, and then a negative value, we translate it to the left but still along your x-axis. So yeah, the same thing you can do it with translate y if you want to translate it along your y-axis. So if you add y there, let's just remove this value, Control S to save, and then move it to its normal place there. So now you want to translate it y. So translate it y, you know the y-axis goes from up to down. So you want to translate it, let's say if you added 250 pixels, it should translate it now alongside your y-axis. As you can see, it's now moved down, and it moved down because again you added a positive value. So if you wanted to translate it up, you add a negative value, and then it should move it up there. As you can see, it's up there. You translate it, but still you translate it along your y-axis. So yeah, you can also, with translate, you can also just use translate without adding a y or x. Let's just again remove this value here, then move it to its normal place. Again, translate, you can just write translate without adding x or y, but if you only put one value, let's say 250 pixels, then it will only target your x-axis. It will only translate it along your x-axis. So if you save that and then refresh, you will see it move it to the left. So it only target your x-axis. But if you wanted to target both, you should add two variables. Let's say 250 pixel, right? So now the first value will represent your x-axis, and then your second value will represent your y-axis. So now if you refresh, you will see it's now down here. It was here, it moved it to the right at first 250 pixel, and then translate it down along your y-axis to 150 pixel. So yeah, and that's really just all you need to know when it comes to translate. You just know how to translate it along your x-axis or translate it along your y-axis, and you can translate it. You can just write translate and then put in your value. All you need to know is if you only put one value, then it will only target your x-axis. But if you wanted to target both, you should add two value, and then the first value will represent your x-axis, and then your second value will represent your y-axis. So yeah, that's all you need to know there. Let's move on to the second transform property that I want us to look at, and then I just want us to comment out this. I don't want to delete it. I'm just going to comment out so that you can have it there. So now you move down. So like I said, everything dealing with transform, so everything falls under transform. And then the second transform property that I want us to look at is scale. So like the name itself, you are scaling your elements. So you are either making it big or you are making them small, and you can scale them along your x-axis again or your y-axis. So again, at first we are going to be looking at how you can scale them along your x-axis. So now with scale, I just save and then refresh this. So as you can see, it is now back to its normal place. So if you look at this image, defaultly it's scaled to 1. So 1, that's like the default scale value. So if you want to make it big, you have to add a value that is bigger than 1. And if you want to make it small or shrink it, you add a value that is less than 1. So if you wanted to scale it, make it big but alongside your x-axis, if you add 3 there, you refresh, you will see you now scale it along your x-axis. If you have noticed, the only thing that changes is the width. Since you scale it along your x-axis, your height or your height still stay the same. This time you scale it along your x-axis. So you wanted to make it big, you add a value that is bigger than 1. So if you wanted to make it small, let's say if you want 0.3 there, now come in here and then refresh, you will see you shrink it, you make it small. But again, the only thing that changes is the width. Since you are only scaling it along your x-axis, so the only thing that changes is your width. Your height is still the same thing. So you can do the same thing if you want to scale it along your y-axis. Let's just delete that and then delete this value. Come here and then take it back to its normal. So if you wanted to, again, 1 is a default value. So if you wanted to make it big, let's say if you use 4 this time and then refresh, make sure you save, refresh. As you can see now, since you are scaling it along your x-axis, you will see now that the height is the only thing that changed. The width is still the same thing, didn't change. So you are scaling it along your y-axis. And if you wanted to make it small, let's say if you add a 0.4 there, you will see you like shrink it, but still you only shrink it along your y-axis. Your width is still the same thing. So yeah, that's how you can do all that. You can scale your image there. Now with the same thing with scale, you can also just use scale without adding your x or y. So let's say if you add that, let's just take it back to normal. So now if you add your scale there, so unlike translate, if you only add one value there, with translate, if you only add one value, it will only target your x-axis. But with scale, if you only add one value, then it will target both your x-axis and your y-axis. So if you only put 3 there, then it will target both your x-axis and your y-axis. As you can see, your image is now big. But if you wanted to target both, you can put the comma there, and then let's say you wanted to make this your y-axis 2, refresh. As you can see now, you scale it 3 times on your x-axis and then 2 times on your y-axis. So that's the only difference that you need to know when it comes to translate and scaling. With translate, if you only put one value, it will target only your x-axis. But with scale, if you only put one value, then it will target both your x and y axis. So yeah, and that's all you need to know really when it comes to scaling as well. So now let's move on to the next transform property that I want us to look at. I'm just going to comment this out as well so that you can have it. You don't want to delete them. I'm just going to comment them out, then have them in there so that you can look at them. And then the next transform property that I want us to look, it's rotate. So everything again, it falls under transform, but then this time I want us to rotate. So again, with rotate, like rotate itself, so you are going to rotate your element on your website. So again, with rotate, you can rotate it either alongside your x-axis or your y-axis. So again, we are going to be rotating first along our x-axis, then so let's just save this and then refresh to take it back to normal. So now with this image, we want to rotate it. Let's say we want to rotate it along our x-axis, let's say 60 degree. So if you put 60 degree there, 60 degree, you don't write the whole degree, you just write 60 deg. There should be just one word there. So you want to rotate it, and if you refresh, you will see that you will see that the height have changed. The height have changed. So that's why you are rotating. You rotated it 60 degree along your x-axis. Along your x-axis. That's why the only thing that if you notice, your only thing that you change there is the height. So if you rotate it, if you increase this, let's say you make it 90 degree, you will see your image has completely disappeared because it's like fret. You can't even see it. It's like fret, you can't even see it. But if you increase this, let's say to 100 degree and then refresh, you will see it's now starting to appear. But if you look closely there, you will see it's like flipped upside down. So if you increase this, let's say to 180 degree and then refresh, you will see your image is now the same size but it's flipped upside down. So you will rotate it 180 degree but along your x-axis. So the same thing, you can do it with your y-axis. So let's just change this to y. Save there, make sure you take this back to its normal. So now this time you want to rotate your image along your y-axis. So let's say you wanted to rotate it along, let's say 40 degree along your y-axis. So if you refresh, you will see the only thing that changed is the width now. When we were dealing with, we were rotating it along our x-axis, our height was the one changing. Now our width is the one that is changing. So let's just increase that, let's say to 70 degrees so that you can see our width is now like changing because you are rotating it along your y-axis. You know your y-axis is running from up to down. So if you increase that to 90, again your image will disappear completely. It looks like it's not even there. But once you increase it, let's say to 120, refresh, you see your image is starting to appear, but you flip it until you reach 180 there, and then refresh, then you see you flip it. So yeah, that's how you can rotate your image along your x-axis and your y-axis. But with rotate, you can also rotate Z or rotate Z. Let's take it to its normal place there. So now with rotate Z, it's more of like let's say an HD kind of thing. So our z index or our z point will be here, and then you can either rotate your image clockwise or anti-clockwise. So I hope that's not confusing. Our z index will be here at the top here in the center. So now you can either rotate your element either clockwise or anti-clockwise, just depending on the value that you enter them. So if you wanted to rotate it clockwise, you add a positive value, and then if you want to rotate it anti-clockwise, you add a negative value. So let's look at that. If you wanted to rotate it, Z, let's say you wanted to rotate it 70 degree, right? You add a positive value, so it should turn clockwise. So if you rotate, if you refresh there, you will see your image has now rotated like 70 degree clockwise, but your Z index is still here, so you rotate it clockwise. And if you increase this to, let's say, 90 and then refresh, you'll see your image is now rotated 90 degree. So the same thing can happen if you wanted to rotate it anti-clockwise. You just add a negative value, let's say negative 60 degree there, then it should rotate anti-clockwise since your Z index or your Z point is still here. So you're just rotating clockwise or anti-clockwise depending on the value that you enter then. So yeah, that's all you need to know when it comes to rotate. So yeah, that's all the transform properties that I wanted us to look at. If you notice, we cover translate, scaling, and then rotate. And when we are going through, we cover them separately. But one thing that you need to know is also that you can use them just at once. You don't have to use translate, transform, and then rotate one by one. You can use them both just in one. So to do that, if you wanted to, let's say you rotate it, right? So the next thing that you wanted to do is translate. So you translate, let's say translate Y to, let's say, 250 pixels. If you translate that and then refresh, make sure you save, you refresh it, now you see your image has now moved to this side. See, and then you can add your scale. You want to scale it. Let's say you just want to scale it, let's say to 2. Alright, if you Control S to save and then refresh, you see your image has now been scaled. At first you rotate it, you translate, and then you scale. So you can use them both at the same time. Just make sure you don't put commas between those properties. Don't put commas like this, just put space, and then you will be sorted. So yeah, that's all really that I wanted us to cover in this transform tutorial. Those are the only properties that I wanted us to look at, since we'll be using all of them in our crash course as we go. So yeah, I hope you find this video helpful. And like I said, there are a lot of CSS transform property out there. So if you want to learn more of them, you can just visit this website here, which is w3schools.com. They have a list of all your CSS properties or CSS transform properties that you can use. So visit this website. I will probably leave the link in the description, and then you can check it out. Or you can just search on Google w3schools.com and then scroll to their CSS properties, CSS transform properties. So you can check all these. They got the list of all of them. So yeah, with that being said, that brings us to the end of this segment. I hope you find this video helpful so far. If you do, then make sure you give the thumbs up, leave us a comment down below, and if you haven't subscribed already by now, then make sure you hit that subscribe button, and please hit the notification bell as well. So yeah, with that being said, stay tuned for our next segment of this crash course. Hello guys, welcome to our third tutorial of this CSS animation crash course. In this tutorial, we are going to be looking at transition. So what transition does is they allow us to change the property value of an element smoothly over a given duration. So let's say, for instance, you got this sun here on your website. So if you wanted, let's say you want to move it from here to here. So you don't want it, when it's moving, you don't want it to jump from here to here. You want to see it moving. So to do that, you have to add transition. Let's say you want it to take, let's say 3 seconds to move from here to here. So you add transition so that you can see it moving from here to here. Or let's say, for instance, you maybe want it to move from here to here. You want it to take, like, let's say 4 or 5 seconds to move so that you can see it moving. You don't want it to jump from here to here. You want to see it moving. So to do that, you add transition. But in this tutorial, we're not going to be dealing with this sun here. We're actually going to be dealing with this hover button which can represent maybe a button on your website or just a div on your website. So let's say you have this hover button here. So we are going to be adding some transition to this. So I have all this code here. I have my HTML code open up here. I also have my CSS code. All these code, these are just pure CSS. We already talked about this in our CSS crash courses. You already cover all this, all that they made up this page here. So we are going to be adding some transition to this hover button here. So the first thing that I want us to do is just come into your CSS, and then we are going to be targeting our button. As you can see here in our HTML, this button here got a class name of button. So that button, that's what we are going to be targeting. So whenever you are adding transition, there's actually 2 ways that you can go about it. There's a longer way and then there's a shorter way to do it. So first we are going to be looking at both in this tutorial, but at first I'm going to show you guys the longer way you can add transition properties to your element. So like I said, we are targeting that button. You just hover. Once you hover it, let's say you want to change the background. You want to change the background, let's say to Christmas. Let's just use this color here, Christmas. Right, and then you also want to transform it. Let's say you want to transform. You want to rotate it. Let's say 360 degree. Right. So you save, just align this. Once you hover, you will see your color is changing there. The rotation, you can't see it because it's happening too quick and it's happening at 360 degree. So now let's actually add some transition so that you can be able to see the color coming in and then the rotation. So like I said, first we are going to be looking at the longer way you can do that. So let's just add, everything is transition property. So this time you want to transition property, you want to target all these that are here down here in the hover. You want to target them all, and then the next thing that I want us to do is the transition duration. The transition duration, let's say we just want it to take 2 seconds. So what this transition do is, you want your transition to take 2 seconds to finish up. So save that, come into your browser. Now once you hover, you will see the rotation. You can actually see it, and then the background, it's changing. You add your transition there, it's changing. It's changing there. So yeah, you can actually add a lot of things. Let's say you want to add the duration. You can also add the timing duration. So transition timing function, transition timing function there. So with this, let's say you can start off with linear. We got different timing function. So linear, so what the linear does it, once you hover, is your transition is starting off and ending at the same pace. So it's starting off slow and then adding on slow. So it's starting and adding at the same pace. Starting and adding at the same pace. We also have a timing function called easing. Save, and then with ease in, what it does is your transition is starting off slow and then finishing fast. So once you hover, your transition is starting off slow and then finishing fast. Starting off slow and then finishing fast. Let's just see that, starting on slow and then finishing fast. So that's ease in. And then there is also ease out. Ease out or just ease. With ease out or just ease, that means that your transition is starting off fast and then adding slow. It's starting off fast and then adding slow. Once you hover, you see starting off fast and then adding slow. Starting off fast and then adding slow. So that's ease or ease out. So yeah, that's really all you need to do. And like I said, this is the longest way to do. So yeah, I only recommend you to do this, to use this longest way if you are want your transition here or your property here to happen at the same time. So this is the best way. So you can use this longest way if you want your transition to happen at the same time. So what if you wanted your property here to happen at a different pace or at a different time? Let's say you wanted the background to happen first and then the transform or the rotate will follow after. So to do that, you can actually use the shortest way, which I'm going to show you now. And to do that, I'm not going to delete this, I'm just going to comment them out. I'm just going to comment that out so that you can hear them and then just calm down. Alright, so the shortest way to do that, you just write transition. You just write transition there. So with the shortest way, you can, if you want to, you are using the shortest way, you can target all. So to do that, let's say you want the transition to take 1 second. So if you say transition 1 second, that means you are targeting all of them. You just want them to happen at the same time. You see, it's happening at the same time, just 1 second. They are all just happening at the same time. The background color and then the rotation, 1 second. But what if you wanted to target the background first and then the rotation? You wanted to target them differently. So to do that, you actually have to add the property. So you want to target the background. You say you want to target the background. You want the background to target it first. You want it to happen 1 second. And then put a comma. Now you want the transform. Now you want the transform to happen, let's say to take 2 seconds. So you want the background to last 1 second, but then you want the rotation, the transform to happen 2 seconds. So once you hover, you see the background is taking 1 second, but then the hover is taking 2 seconds. So let's say you wanted to add the delay. You wanted the background to happen first, and then the rotation will wait for the background to finish before it starts. So to do that, you just come into your transform property and then add a property. Let's say you want it to, you know your background is lasting 1 second, right? So you just add 1 second there. So what that does is, the first property here, it represents the transition duration. And then the second property here, it represents the transition delay. You want your rotation to wait for the background transition to finish before it starts. So you already know your background transition is taking 1 second, so you want it to finish first before your rotation begins. So you save that and then come into your browser. Now you see once you hover, the background is finished and then the rotation is starting after. They are no more starting at the same time. You see, the background first and then the hover, the rotation is starting. Background and then the rotation. So that's how you can do that. So now you can also add the timing function to that. Let's say you wanted to add the transition, the timing function. So you just come in here and then you can either use linear, where linear, I told you, is starting and adding at the same pace. See, it's linear, starting and adding at the same pace, starting and ending at the same pace. And then there is ease in, there is ease in, which is starting at a slow pace and then adding at a fast pace. So once you hover, it's starting at a slow pace and then adding fast, starting slow, adding fast, and then there is this is out or just is. You can either write is out or just is. It's all the same thing. Is out or just is, which is starting fast and then adding slow. Then adding slow. Starting fast and then adding slow. So yeah, that's really all you need to know when you are dealing with transition. You just have to know that you can use this longer way, it's fine, but there is a shorter way you can do it, where you can add different transition property to different properties. So yeah, I hope this video was helpful. If you find it helpful, make sure that you give it a thumbs up, leave us a comment down below, and if this was your first time, then please consider subscribing so you don't miss out on any of our videos that we will be posting. So yeah, that was it for this tutorial. I will see you guys in the next tutorial where we are going to be looking at keyframes. So that's it, I'm out. Hello guys, welcome to our fourth tutorial of this CSS animation crash course. In this tutorial, we are going to be looking at keyframes. To me, keyframes are the most important thing when it comes to animation, because they defines our animation by telling CSS how we want our animation to work. So with keyframes, they tell you mostly about two things. The first thing is they tell you what the action of your frame is at a certain point of time. And then secondly, they'll tell you what time that action will occur. So when dealing with keyframe, you need to create a keyframe block. And you create a keyframe block for every element that you want to add keyframes to. And to start with keyframes, so let's say for example we get our file open up here. This is our HTML file. And then we also have our CSS file. Our file is open up in our browser here. So this whole thing, this is just pure HTML. We cover all this in our HTML crash course already. So and then this is our pure CSS. We cover all this in our CSS crash course already. So I'll leave the link to those crash courses in the description in case you want to check them out. But this code here is what made up this page here. You see, this is like the sky, the sun is shining there. This is the grass and then the child. This is our HTML here. So now we want to at least create a person riding a bike. So we want to add a keyframe where they will be able to ride from here to here. They're coming from here to here. And to do that, we already have our image in our root folder here. This is our root folder. So if you look into image, we have this image here. So this is the image that we want to use. So let's just add that to our file. We come inside our road class there. That's where we are going to be adding our image. So I want to add an image, and then this image I want to give it a class name of bike1. And then I'll just press enter there, and then that will be created. So the source of this image is, we know it's in the folder called images, and the name is bike and the format is png. So the source there is images/bike1.png. that's the format. Control L to save, and then come into your browser, refresh. As you can see, you got your bike there. That's your bike. So now let's just move on to our CSS so that we can style our bike guide there. So to style that, we have to call it, we already know our class name is bike. It's bike1. our class name. This is our class name here, bike1. So we have to call that. Let's just add some simple CSS. Let's just say we want to position it. Let's say absolute. So we want to give it some margin to the top. Let's say to 0. Some margin to the left. Let's say to 0 as well. Let's give it the height. Let's just change the height there. Let's say 80 pixel. And then the width. Let's say we want to make it 100 pixel. Right? Save that. Come in here and then refresh. So you can see you got your bike there. Right? So now you want to add a keyframe where it's riding from here to here. From here to here. So to do that, you have to create a keyframe block. So to create a keyframe block, just add keyframe. Add keyframes, and then you give your keyframe a name. Let's say I'm just going to give mine a ride, and then open and closing curly brackets. And the reason you are giving your keyframes a name is for you to be able to use it earlier. So if you didn't give your keyframes a name, then there is no way you are going to be able to call it or use it later. So make sure that you always give your keyframes a name. It doesn't really matter what names you give it, just as long as you give it a name. So now you come inside your open and closing curly brackets here. In this keyframes block, there are two keywords that you have to add in. So the keyframe, this will set how this person is going to write from here to here. So inside here you have to insert two keywords. The first one is from, where you want the person to write from, and then the second keyword is to, where you want the person to write to. So now you come in here, you want them to start writing from here to here, right? So you add in from, you add your transform. You want to translate X. You are translating X because you want to write from left to right. So this is along your X axis. So you are translating X, and this time you want to start from 0. Right? You want them to start where they are here. So, and then you want to, where you want them to write to, it's here. So now you come to, you transform, again, translate, and still you are translating X since you want them to write along your X axis. So but then this time, let's say you want them to write to this part. So let's say 1000 pixel. That's where you want to write, since you want them to write from here to here, somewhere here. So let's just put 1000 there. So now you Control S to save, come in your browser and then refresh. As you can see, nothing is happening. You are probably asking yourself, like, what did I do wrong? Well, I'm here to tell you that you didn't do anything wrong, but you are just not done yet. So now that you set your keyframe there, you actually have to call it out. For it to work, you have to call it out. And you know you are targeting your bike one there, so you have to come inside there and then call it. At first, you want to give it an animation name. You want to call out the animation name. This is the name that you are going to be using, which is right, the same name that you name your keyframe block. And then the second thing is the animation duration. And the animation duration just means like the time that you want the person to write from here to here. So you are setting the time that you want your animation to take when writing from here to here. So in this case, let's just make it, let's say 4 seconds. Save that and then come in your browser, refresh. As you can see, the person is now writing from there to here. So just refresh that and then see it's writing from there to here. And then once it reaches here, it just bounces back to here. So we will fix that in our next tutorial. But for now, just know that this is how you create a keyframe. You just have to create a keyframe block, make sure you give it a name, and then insert 2 keywords. There is actually another way you can write your keyframes, but we are going, that is a bit more advanced. But for you as a beginner, this is just what you need to know, that you set so you insert 2 keywords in here, which is from and to, and then set your animation. And then once you are done setting your keyframes, you come into what you want to target, call your animation name, give it your name, and then set your animation duration, and then that will be it. So yeah, that's it for this tutorial. I hope you find this tutorial helpful. If you did, make sure you give it a thumbs up, and if you have any question, then leave it in the comments down below, and we will definitely get back to you. And if this is your first time, then please consider subscribing so you don't miss out on any content that we'll be posting. So yeah, this is it for this tutorial. I will see you guys in the next tutorial, where we are going to be looking at how you can add more properties to this animation. So yeah, I'm out. Hello guys, welcome to our 5th tutorial of this CSS animation crash course. In this tutorial, we are going to be looking at fill mode. So with fill mode, you set how a CSS animation should apply style to its target before and after its execution. For instance, in our previous tutorial, we created a keyframe for this, where if you're riding, this guy is riding from here to here, but once he reach here, it just bounce back here. So what if you wanted them to stay here? What if you wanted them to stay there? So to do that, you use animation fill mode. And what that does is, with fill mode, there are 4 properties that you can use. You can use none, which is default, and then there is forwards, which will allow it to stay there, and then there is backwards, and then both. So we are going to be looking at forwards first. So like I said, none is the default one. This is the none. It's default. As you can see, once it reaches here, it just bounce back to this. So that's none. So to add forwards, you just call it, and again you are targeting your bike one there. So animation fill mode, and then this time you want to use forwards. Alright, so what forwards does, once it reaches here, it will stay there, it won't bounce back. So if you refresh, you see it's riding, and it's now stopping there, and it's staying there. So that's what forwards does. So let's look at backwards. So before we look at backwards, I just want to add a property here, and this property is animation delay. We just want to give a delay to our animation, let's say to 2 seconds before it starts. So if you refresh, you see it's taking 2 seconds, and then it starts. Right, taking 2 seconds, and then it starts. Right, but as you can see, it's starting here. What if we wanted it to start somewhere here? Let's say we wanted to start from, let's say, to 200 pixel, not from 0, but somewhere here. As you can see, if you refresh, it's like it's jumping. If you see, it's like jumping from here to here. It's like jumping, and then it starts riding. But we didn't want it to jump. As you can see, it's like jumping there from here, and then it starts. But then we don't want it to jump, we just want it to start here. So with that, you add a backwards. So let's say if you add a backwards there, animation fill mode, you use a backwards. So if you refresh, you see it's now starting here, and then call it. It's no more starting there, just starting where you 200 pixels from the ref, where you set it. It's no more starting from here. You can see it's starting there, and then driving there. But now once it reaches here, it's bouncing back here. You see that? yeah, it's starting here riding, but then once it reach here it's bouncing back here, but we wanted it to stay here. We didn't want it to bounce back, so that's where both come in. So you, instead of using backwards or forward, you use both, and that will take care of for backwards and forward. So now if you use both, just Control S to save and then refresh. As you can see, it's now just starting there riding, and it should stay there. Right, it's now staying there. So let's just see that riding from there to here, and it's staying there. So yeah, that's how animation fill mode works. So what you need to know with fill mode, there is 3 properties that you can use or you can choose from. The default one is none, and there is forwards, and then there is backwards, and then there is both. So yeah, I hope this video was helpful. If you find it helpful, make sure you give it a thumbs up. If you have a question, then make sure you leave it in the comments down below, and we will definitely get back to you. And if this was your first time, then please consider subscribing so you don't miss out on any content that we will be posting. So yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. I'm out. Hello guys, welcome to our 6th tutorial of this CSS animation crash course. In this tutorial, we are going to be looking at how you can repeat your animation. So to repeat your animation, we use this property called animation iteration count. And what this does is it sets the number of times you want your animation sequence to be played before it stops. Let's say, for instance, in our previous tutorial, we created this. If you refresh here, see it's delaying and then playing, and then just right to here and then it stopped. So what if you wanted it to repeat yourself? What if you wanted it to this guy to keep riding maybe 3 times or 4 times? So to do that, we use animation iteration count, and that we will set on how many times we want our animation to be repeated before it stops. So let's say we wanted this animation to happen 3 times before it stops. So we come in here, but before we do that, let's just remove, I just want us to remove this delay here, since I don't want it to delay our animation. So to repeat our animation, we use, like I said, we use animation iteration count, and that will set how many times we want our animation to be repeated. So let's say we wanted these guys to go around maybe 4 times before it stops. So we set 4 there, save, come in here and then refresh. So this guy should ride 4 times before it stops. 1 time, jumping 2 times, jumping back 3 times, then come back 4 times, and then it should stop there. So we repeated our animation 4 times and then it stopped there, right? And then you see, if you see your animation, once this guy reach here, it just jump here. You will see it jumping from here to here, just jumping there. So that doesn't really look good. It's not really a smooth animation. So to fix that, how about we start our guy from outside of our window and then add outside of our window, and then we just see him riding through here. We will not see him where he is starting and where he is ending up. So you just see him riding here, and to do that, you just come here. So let's say we wanted him to start outside, so let's say 250, negative 250, then outside, and then we wanted him to end up at 1250 pixel outside of our window. So what that does is he's starting outside here and then he is heading outside of our window. So we will not see where he is starting or where he is ending. We will just see him riding through our window there. So if you refresh them, just see him riding till the end, and then starting over again, riding. So he is starting outside, and then 3 times, so 4 times, right? Then once 0 and 4 times, since we only wanted our animation to be repeated 4 times, that's the 4th time. So he stopped outside. That's because we said he is stopping outside our window there. So to fix that, we want our guy to just keep on riding. He is not stopping anywhere. Our animation will just keep on repeating itself. And to do that, instead of using numbers, we use a keywords, and the keywords that you can use is infinite. And what that does is you want your animation to just keep on playing infinitely. It's not stopping anywhere. So if you refresh, your guy will just keep on riding over and over and over and over again. It's not stopping, riding, going through your screen, and that will just like this guy is just going around in circle, just riding on the screen, going around in circle. So yeah, that's how you add an iteration count. You can either use number if you want to specify how many times you want your animation to play or to be repeated, or you can just put infinite if you want your animation to keep on repeating over and over and it's not stopping. So this guy is just going to be keeping on riding. Let's just hope he doesn't get tired. But yeah, that's how you can repeat your animation. So yeah, I hope you find this video helpful. If you did, make sure you give it a thumbs up. If you have a question, then make sure you drop it down in the comments down below, and then we'll definitely get back to you. And if this was your first time, then please consider subscribing so you don't miss out on any content that we will be posting. So yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. I'm out. Peace, love, and unity. Hello guys, welcome to our 7th tutorial of this CSS animation crash course. In this tutorial, we are going to be looking at animation direction. So with animation direction, it allows you to specify which direction you want your animation to be played in. So you can specify whether or not the animation should be played forwards, backwards, or alternate back and forth. Let's say, for instance, in our previous tutorial, we created this guy here, just riding infinitely, so he's not stopping. So in this tutorial, I want us to use a different person since I don't want to disturb this guy. He looks like he's enjoying his workout, so he's not tired yet, so I don't want to disturb him. But yeah, so in this tutorial, I will add another person so he can join him on the right. So what I want us to do is come into here. The image that I want us to use is in our root folder here, and then images. So I want us to use bike 2. That's the image that I want us to use, or that we are going to be using. So just want to come in here in my HTML file. I just want to come down here, then I want to add that image. So image, I want to give it the class name of bike 2 since this is bike 1. So and then just tab, and then the source, we know it's in our image folder. The folder here is images. So and the name is bike 2, the format is png. So just call that images / then bike 2, the format is png, right? So if you come into your browser, it should be, if you refresh, it should be added on somewhere. As you can see, it's here. This is the image here. So let's just add some styling to that. So I want us to come into our CSS down here, just come down here. So call it, we know, got our class name of bike 2. Here is our class name, so let's just call that. So call it bike 2, and then we want to, let's just add some styling to that. So let's just position it absolute. I just want to position it absolute, and then I want to add some margin to the bottom. I just want to place it to the bottom, let's say 10 pixels, and then add some margin to the left to 0, right? And then I just want to change the height of that, of our image. The height, let's make it 80 pixels, and then the width, let's just make it 100 pixels, right? So come into our browser and then refresh. As you can see, it's now down here, it's down there, so it's perfect. So now we want to add our animation direction to this. So we are not going to be creating a new keyframe, we're just going to be using this keyframe here. So we're just going to be using this keyframe here. So let's just come in here and then call our animation there. First thing that I want us to call is animation name. So this is our animation that we are using. We are just going to be using this right. So animation name is right there. And then the second thing is animation duration. Animation duration, right? And then we want to, since we want to reverse this, it's going to be slow, so let's set it to at least 6 seconds. Since this is 4, so let's make this 6 seconds. And if you save and then refresh, it should play its reverse. It's going there at least one time. So let's add other properties like animation fill mode. Animation fill mode. If you don't know what fill mode is, we covered this in our previous tutorial. I will leave the link in the description. So we are going to be using both, the same as the one that we use on top here. So, and then the next thing, the next property that I want us to do is animation and duration count. Again, we covered this in our previous tutorial. So we are going to use this infinite. We are going to keep it as infinite. So yeah, if you come down here and then refresh in our browser, refresh, you see they are like both riding. They are both riding there. This one is going slow and fast. So now you want to set the direction to this animation. You want to set the direction, so you want to reverse this so they can ride from here to here and not go from here to here. So to do that, we use a property called animation direction. So we just call that animation direction. So with animation direction, we can choose all these. You got all these options there, as you can see. So the first one is normal. This is the normal one. You can see the one that we are using at the moment is normal, right? Just the same way. And then you can use other options, like you set this to reverse, right? If you use reverse, it will, and then come in here, refresh, make sure you save. Then with reverse, it will reverse it. It's now going from here to here. See, it's reversing, coming from here to here. You can see that. Perfect. That's how you set it. So you can also use, there's also other options like, just remove this, there's also other options like alternate. And what alternate does is it goes from forwards and then backwards. With alternate, it goes from forward, it's going here and then come back. It's going from here. So let's just refresh that. That you can see it's going from here until there, and then it should come back here. Just hold on, and then it should come back. As you see, it's coming back, and then it should come back from there. It's just going forwards and then backwards. So it's coming with alternate, it's coming from, which is 250 pixel, to 1250. So it's coming forwards and then backwards. And then you got the last option that you can use, or that we are going to be looking at, is alternate reverse. So with alternate reverse, it's going backwards and then forward. So it's just the opposite of alternate. It's going to from. It's like going backwards and then forward. So if you refresh, it should come from him to here. It's going backwards and then forward. Just refresh that. As you can see, it's going backwards and then forward. So that's what alternate reverse does. It's coming to one. It's coming from 1250 to negative 250. So it's coming from backwards to forward. So yeah, that's how you can set the direction of your animation. So we're just going to leave this at the reverse. Since I want it to go the opposite direction, I want them to be riding from the opposite direction. So yeah, this one must come here. So yeah, that's how you can set the direction to your animation. all you need to know is you can use this animation property here, which is animation direction. You can set it to reverse, or you can set it to alternate, or you can use alternate reverse. It's really just up to you. All you need to know is, as long as you know the keywords, which is animation direction. So yeah, I hope you find this video helpful. If you did, make sure you give it a thumbs up, and if you have a question, then make sure you drop it in the comment down below. And if this was your first time, then please consider subscribing so you don't miss out on any content that we will be posting. So yeah, that's what it for this tutorial. I'll see you guys in the next video. I'm out. Peace, love, and unity. Hello guys, welcome to our 8th tutorial of this CSS animation crash course. In this tutorial we are going to be looking at animation timing function. With animation timing function, it sets how an animation progresses through the duration of each cycle. So let's say, for instance, throughout this crash course we created these guys riding here. And if you look closely, you will see that they are starting off slow, speeding up in the middle, and finish off slow. I don't know if you can see that. Starting fast, speed up in the middle, and then finish off slow. So to see that, let's just take this back to 0, change this back to 0 so you can see that, and then maybe set this to 1000 so they can be happening just within our browser. Come into our browser again and refresh, starting, as you can see. Now you will see they are starting off slow, speed up in the middle, and then finish off slow. Even this one starting off slow, speed up in the middle, and then finish off slow. I hope you can see that. So to control that, we use a timing function property. And there are different timing function property that you can use. So the default one, the one that we are using at the moment, is ease. So ease is a default one where they are starting off slow, speed up in the middle, and then finish off slow. And then there is other. Let's look at others that we can use. Like I said, let's say we want to target bike 1 here, our guy at the top there. So we come into bike 1 there, just come down, and then like I said, the property that we are using is animation timing function. Animation timing function there. So like the default one, like I said, is ease. If you put ease there, refresh, is the same thing where they are starting off slow, speed up in the middle, and then finish off slow. Hope you can see that. And then there is others, like, let's say for instance, rhenium. You can look at the rhenium. So with rhenium, it start off and finish off at the same pace. The pace doesn't change. So if you refresh, you see that it start off and finish off at the same pace. Start off and finish off at the same pace, so the pace doesn't change. And then there is others, like you're targeting the guy out top there. There is others like ease in. So with ease in, it start off slow and then speed up until the end. Don't confuse it with ease. With ease, it start off slow, speed up in the middle, and then slow down at the end. With ease in, it start off slow and then speed up until the end. So if you refresh, just make sure you save and then come in here and then refresh. You will see it start off slow and then speed up until the end. Starting off slow and then speed up until the end. So that's ease in. And then there is ease out. There is ease out. Ease out is like the opposite of ease in. Ease out is the opposite of ease in. So it start off fast and then slow down at the end. So if you refresh, start off fast and then slow down at the end. So ease out is the opposite of ease in. And then the last one that I want us to look at is ease in out. So with ease in out is almost like the default one, which is ease. So it start off slow, speed up in the middle, and then slow down at the end. So it's the same, almost the same as the default one. Start off slow, speed up in the middle, and then slow down at the end. Hope you can see that. Start off slow, speed up in the middle, and then slow down at the end. So is almost the same as is, which is the default timing function property. So yeah, these are all the timing function that you need to know as a beginner. So I just want to set this to linear. I want to leave it to linear so that it can go at the same pace, just right at the same pace. It doesn't change, start off and right at the same pace. And then you can also set the same timing function to our bike 2 here down here, so they can all ride at the same pace. So you can add the animation timing function to our bike down here. So let's set this to linear. So I set them all to linear, and then if you refresh, you will see they are all just riding at the same pace. So yeah, that was it for this tutorial. I hope you find this video helpful. If you did, make sure you give it a thumbs up. If you have a question, then drop it in the comment down below. And if this was your first time, then please consider subscribing so you don't miss out on any content that we'll be posting. So yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. I'm out. Peace, love, and unity. Hello guys, welcome to our 9th tutorial of this CSS animation crash course. In this tutorial, we are going to be looking at animation shorthand. So if you have been following along our tutorial, then you know that throughout this crash course we created this file here. So we created our guys here enjoying their workout. So and if you look down here, we write all this line of code of animations. All this is for our bike one day. So this is actually the longest way you can write your animation properties. And there is actually a shortest way to write your animation properties, and that's what we are going to be looking at in this tutorial. So I'm going to show you guys how you can shorten your animation properties without having to write all this animation duration, animation name, animation iteration count. So what I want us to do, like I said, we are going to be targeting our bike one here, the one on top. So what I want us to do is just come in here. I just want to comment out all this. I don't want to delete them. I just want to comment them out so you can have them there. So to comment them out, I'm just going to write my comments there, comment this out until they right. So, and make sure you save that. And now I just want us to come in here and then refresh. Once you refresh, you see your animation has been taken out of this bike one there. So your lady is now the only one that is riding this one. That's because you comment them out. So now what I want us to do is just come down here and then start writing our animation the shortest way. So the first thing that I want us to do is just write animation and then colons. That's all you need to know, animation and then colon. So for your animation to work, you need two things. You need to call out your animation name and then your animation duration. So you already know your animation name, if you look down here, is right. So instead of writing animation name, you just write animation and then you write your name there, which is right. And that's your animation name, right? And then you want the second part for your animation to work, you know you have to set your animation duration. So you want this to, let's say, take 5 seconds. So you just write 5 seconds there and then cross it off with a semicolon. So you just put right and then put a space and then 5 seconds. So this right here represent your animation name and then 5 seconds represent your animation duration. I hope you are following. So now if you come in here and then refresh, you see your animation is now working. Just one, it just goes around one and then it stops. See your animation there. You see you didn't have to write the whole thing where animation name, right, animation duration, 5 seconds then. All you write is animation colons and then write the right, which represent the animation name, and then put space and then 5 seconds will represent the animation duration. So let's actually add other properties like animation, let's say animation fill mode. So to write animation fill mode, if you want it forwards, you just write forwards there. Forwards. You don't have to write animation full mode in full. So you just write forwards, and then that's the keywords that you use for forward. So if you come in here, you refresh, you know forwards will set it here to stop here. So once the animation finish, it's now stopping there and staying there. That's because you include forward. So let's add some other properties again. So you can write animation iteration count. So to set your animation iteration count, you set it to infinite. All you need to write is just infinite. You don't need to write animation iteration count, just write infinite, the keywords infinite there. And then if you save, you will notice that refresh, your animation will now go around many times, just repeating. See that? So now the next property that I want us to add is animation timing function, which we cover. I don't need to really explain all this in detail since we already covered this in our previous tutorial. So if you don't know what we are talking about when we are meaning of forwards, when you are talking of animation iteration count or animation timing function, then go back to our previous animation. I will leave the link in the description so that you can check them out. So yeah, animation timing function, let's set this to linear. All we need to do is just write linear there, and then if you refresh, you will see what you already know what linear is. It sets the duration to go at the same pace. Your rider is now just going at the same pace there. It's not speeding up or slowing down, just riding at the same pace. So all you need to do is just add these keywords linear there, and that will represent the animation timing function. So the other properties that you can do is also to add the animation delay. So to add the animation delay, you can add it anywhere. Let's say if you put 2 seconds here, you want your animation to be delayed 2 seconds before it starts. If you put 2 seconds there, so this will represent the animation delay. So now if you come in here and then refresh, it's delaying for 2 seconds and then it's starting. I hope you saw that. Refresh, delaying for 2 seconds and then it starts. That's because you added your animation delay there. The only thing that I want you to keep in mind is whenever you are dealing with duration and delay, animation duration and animation delay, you should know that the first number that you put in there, the first number always represents the animation duration, and then the second number will always represent the animation delay. So you can put this anywhere. If you put it down here, let's say if you delete that and then put it here, all right, 2 seconds there, and then save. Make sure you save, come in here and then refresh. You see it's still taking 2 seconds and then it's starting. So what you should know is the first number always represents the animation duration, and then the second value, the second number, would always represent the animation delay. So if you were to change, let's say change this to 2 seconds and then make this 5 seconds. So now you set your animation to take 2 seconds and then you want it to be delayed for 5 seconds. So if you come in here and then refresh, make sure you save, and then it should be delayed for 5 seconds. You see it's stopping for 5 seconds there, and then it just pew for 2 seconds. See, for 2 seconds, it's now just taking 2 seconds, but you see it's delaying for 5 seconds there, and then it goes. See that? So that's because the first number here now is 2 seconds. So like I said, the first number always represents the animation duration, and then the second number represents the animation delay. So let's just take that back to 5 seconds, since we want our animation to take 5 seconds and then to be delayed for 2 seconds. And when it comes to other animation properties, let's say animation fill mode or animation iteration count and all this, with all this, it doesn't really matter which one you add first or in what order you put them, since they all just be considered according to their keywords. So yeah, that's just what I wanted to explain to you, but let's just delete this animation delay since I don't want our animation to be delayed. So yeah, and then refresh this. So yeah, you see now it's riding there, our animation now is riding perfectly. So yeah, that's the shortest way you can write your animation property. Instead of having to write all this line of code, you see now how short our line of code is. All we have to do is write animation and then include all our values here. You didn't have to write all this line of code there. So yeah, that was it for this tutorial. I hope you find this video helpful. If you did, make sure you give it a thumbs up. If you have a question, then please drop it in the comments down below. And if this was your first time, then please consider subscribing so you don't miss out on any content that we will be posting. So yeah, that was it. I will see you guys in the next video. I'm out. Peace, love, and unity. Hello guys, welcome to our 10th tutorial of this CSS animation crash course. In this tutorial we are going to be looking at how we can chain our animation. So with chaining animation, like the name itself, it helps us chain 2 or more animation together. Let's say for instance, throughout our crash courses we created this, our 2 people here working out. So in this tutorial I want us to try to add another animation to our guy up here. So when he reaches in the middle here, I want to jump up and down and then keep riding. So you already know for every animation that you want to add, you have to create a new keyframe block for it. So that's exactly what we are going to be doing. I just want us to come down here and then create a new keyframe block. So what I want us to do is right come down here and then keyframe block, and then this time I just want to call it, let's say jump, since we want him to jump there. And then inside there, so inside our keyframe we have to create 3 positions, since we want him once he is down, and then the second one is when he is up, and then the third is when he is down again. So we can use from and to, since these are only for 2 positions. If you are creating 2 positions, that's when you will only use from and to, but this time we need 3 positions, so we are going to be using percentage. We want the first position is when it's at 0%. We want the top to be at 0, since that is where he is. If you look into our code here, at top is at 0%. And then we want when he is reached in the middle, we want him to jump. So let's say in the middle is like 50%. We want him to jump, so top we are going to, let's say, make it negative 30 pixels, since we want him to jump there. And then the last position is when he is down at 100%. We want him to be the top. We want him to put him back down. So the top, let's make it 0. So the first position is at 0, he is at the top, and then at 50% we want him to jump, and then at 100% we want to bring him back down. So save that. So let's actually call add these jump keyframes to our guy there, the first spike here. So we want to come down here. So to actually, we already know we already added this animation here at first. So to chain this animation together, all we need to do is just add a comma there, add a comma here, and then let's just bring this down so that you can see it. So as soon as you put the comma there, and then you don't need to write animation again, you just call out your animation, which is jump, which is the name of this animation down here. Jump there, and then animation duration. Let's say we want it to take 1 second. Let's add a delay there. Let's say to 2.3 seconds. And then the next animation property that I want us to add is just the animation timing function, which I want to put it as is. So we put the animation name, the animation duration, the animation delay, and then the animation timing function. That's all I want us to add there. Since I only want this animation to happen once, I'm not going to include the animation iteration count. So let's just come in here and then refresh. See, once it reached there, it jumps a bit. You can see, I hope you saw that. I just refresh that. See, and then it's jumping. So let's just put the duration here to, let's say, to 0.5 seconds, to 0.5 seconds, and then refresh again. And then once it's jumping there, you saw that jump there, refresh, and then jump there. So yeah, that's how you can chain 2 or more animation together. All you need to do is just put a comma and then add your new animation. Don't need to start off with animation again, since you are chaining them together. So yeah, that was it for this tutorial, and this is actually our final tutorial of this CSS animation crash courses. Throughout this we cover a lot. I hope you learn a lot. So yeah, like I told you in our introduction, at the end of this tutorial I told you that we are going to be creating this renting page here. If you refresh, it's coming in there, and then we got our button coming in there, and then we also got all this. So this is actually what we are going to be creating in our next tutorial. We are going to cross off our CSS animation crash courses by creating this renting page here. So this is what we are going to be looking at in our next tutorial. So yeah, if you want to keep up with everything, just make sure that you smash that subscribing button, click that notification bell so you get notified and be the first one to watch every video that we are posting. So yeah, that was it for this tutorial. I will see you guys in the next tutorial. I'm out. Peace, love, and unity. Hello guys, welcome to another tutorial. In this tutorial we are going to cross off our CSS animation crash course by creating this renting page here. If you refresh, you will see it's animated there. This one is coming in. You got your button there, and then your services. Your button got this hover effect, and then your services got this hover effect here. You got all this transition there, right? So yeah, I'm excited to show you guys, but before we get started, I just want to ask you, if this is your first time, then please consider subscribing so you don't miss out on any content that we will be posting. So with that being said, let's jump right straight into it. So as you can see, I already have my HTML file open up here. Oh, this is just an HTML structure. I have my CSS file. As you can see, it's empty at the moment. So yeah, I link my CSS file to my HTML. So yeah, let's get started writing our HTML. So with this is just pure HTML. So I'm going to be moving a bit faster since I don't feel the need to explain everything, since I will assume you already know what HTML is. And if you don't know what HTML is, then I will advise you to go back and watch our HTML crash courses before you get to this. I will leave the link in the description for you to check it out. So yeah, let's go ahead and write our HTML. So what I want us to do first is just create a header. So I just want to create a header, and with that header I want to give it a class name of header. Alright, you can see I have a header there, and then inside our header I want to create another div and give this div a class name of title. So I'm going to give this the class name of title, like that, as you can see. And then inside our age title I want to add an age one, and inside our age one I just want to name this my website. Alright, so then I want to come outside of my website, my title div there, and then create the navigation. So I just want to call that the nav, and then give it a class name of nav as well, and then press tab. So I created the navigation and then give it a class name of nav. So inside of this, let's just write our URL there, and then our arrays tag. The first one is going to be a home, right? Then the second arrays tag that I want us to create is going to be, let's say, about, right? And then services, and then the last one is contact. So we create our contact there. So if you come into our browser there and then refresh, you will see you got this, right? So yeah, we created our navigation there. Now let's go ahead and add some more HTML. So I just want us to come outside of header there, come out, and then create a div, give it an ID of showcase. So I'm going to create a div and then give this an ID of showcase. I want to give it an ID of showcase, right? That's the div that I created. So inside of this div I want to give it an age one, create an age one, and then this welcome to my website. Welcome to my website is our age one there. So I just want us to come outside of showcase div and then create another div, give it an ID of content and the class name of container. So first I want to give it an ID of content, and then give it a class name of container. container, right? So just press tab. As you can see, it got an ID of content and then a class name of container. And then inside here, I just want to add a couple of text. So I'm just going to write rem 30, rem 30, and then press tab, and that will give me 30 random text. You can see that. So now I want us to come outside of our content div there and just create our button. So what I want to do is just create a ring tag there. Is not going to be ringing anywhere, so I just want to give this a class name of btn, which is our button, and then just text, let's just say read more, right? That's our button. As you can see, I told you I'm not really going to be explaining all this. We cover all this, all the ring tag and all that we cover in our HTML crash courses, so that's why I'm going a bit first. So yeah, like that, we created that. Now I want us to come down and then create another div and give it an ID of servers, right? So an ID, a div, give it an ID of servers. Let's say services, right? Press tab there, and then inside this div, the first one, I want to give it an HR, a header rule. So this header rule, I want to give it a class name. Let's give it a class name of Aurora. Let's give it a class name of Aurora there. And then down here inside our services, but down of our header rule, I want to add an H1. Then this H1, I want to just our services, right? And then down there is services there, but still inside our services ID div, I want to create 4 divs. So they're going to be sharing a unique class name and then different class name. So the first div that I want to create, I want to give it a class name of servers and then a unique class name of servers1, right? And then press tab, right? It got 2 class name. The first one is servers and then the second one is services, right? So and then inside of this services div, I want to add an h2. Let's just say we want to add your title, so I'm just going to write rem 3, since I just want a title of 3 words there. And then I want to add a paragraph, just some content, so I'm just going to write rem, let's say 25, paragraph of 25 words. That's what gives me that. So now I want 4 of these, so what I'm going to do is just copy all this, copy them, and then paste them down here 4 times. 3 times 3, since I only want 4. And then we got servers1, and then this I want to give it the class name of 7.2, change that to 7.2, services2, services3, and then services4, right? We got all that. This is just our HTML. Save that, come into our browser, and then refresh. As you can see, you got all this, right? So yeah, we're done with our HTML. I don't feel really like I have the need to explain all this. This was just pure HTML. So let's go on to our CSS. And the first thing that I want us to do in our CSS is just reset everything to 0. As you can see, there are padding and margins at the edge here. So I want to reset everything to 0. So what I'm going to do is just, how to reset everything is just margin, which is set to 0. And then set a padding to 0. Then if you come in here, these edges should go, as you can see, they are now down there, everything is reset to 0. So now let's move down. So now let's add some formatting to the body. So I just want us to call out our body there, right? The first thing that I want us to do is change the font family font family that I want us to use is, I want to use sans serif. Sans serif, and if sans serif is not working, I want to use Tahoma. Right, sans serif or Tahoma. And then the next thing that I want us to do is change the background color. The background there, I want to use this color here, which is 12475F. Just save that. Then if you come in here, refresh, see you got that color there. That's the color I want us to use. So let's add some more formatting, right? And then the color of our text, I want to use this whitish, right? And then next thing is just add some line height, let's say to 1.5, right? And then let's say the text align, let me just center everything in our body. And then let's say the overflow X, overflow, since I don't want anything going on the edge along our x-axis, I want it at hidden. Since I don't want, if you come in here, I don't want anything going over, having to scroll through the screen, so overflow X there. So then if you come in here, refresh, see you got that, everything is centered there. So now let's actually add some styling to our navigation there. Here we know we got our navigation, our header and title and navigation there. So we start with header. Now we got the class name of header there, so let's just call that out. Call header, right? And then give it a width of 100%, and then let's display everything. Let's say flex, right? Let's display everything flex in there. And then let's actually give it a position. Let's say to the position of, let's say, absolute. Let's give it some margin to the top, let's say to 20 pixel, and then some margin to the left, let's say to 20 pixel, right? So if you come in here and then refresh, see you got it here, you can see you got it there, everything is over it because you gave it a position of absolute there, that's why everything is now over it. So now let's just go ahead and target our title there. So we know we got a div called title with a class name of title, so let's just call that. I just want to change the font size, let's say to 18 pixel. Right, that's all I want to do there. Now let's go on to our navigation. You know we got our navigation got a class name of nav. Again, I'm going fast since this is just pure CSS. We cover all this in our CSS crash courses. So if you don't know what we are talking about, I will advise you to go back and watch our CSS crash course and come back to this. I will leave the link in the description again. So with our navigation, I just want to give it a position of absolute as well, and then move it to the right. So I want to give it some margin to the right, let's say to 10%. And if you come in here, refresh, you see it's now here. So now I want to target our nav list item there, and what I want to do, let's move it down, and what I want to do is just display them, let's say in a line block, right? And then give them some margins, just set the margin to the left, margin to the left, let's set it to 0, right? If you come in here, refresh, you see they are now displayed in line block. So now I want to give some margin to the right of this, but this one I want it to stay where it is. So this one I'm not targeting it, I just want to target these other 3. So I want to come down here and then call our nav or list, but this time I don't want to target our last item, I don't want to target our last child there. So I just want to give the margin, let's say to the right, let's say to 150 pixel, 150 pixel, Alright, so if you come in here, make sure you save, come in here and then refresh, you'll see you now got your margin. This one is where it is. So again, this is just pure CSS, that's why I don't feel the need to explain everything. I'm just moving fast. So now let's go on and target our container, our div there, which is I want to target our container, this one, and then showcase. So the first thing that I want us to do is target our container. Let's just container, alright, call that, and then let's just give them some, let's say some maximum width. Let's do it to 960 pixel, and then let's give it some margin. Let's set some margin to auto, and then let's give it some padding. Let's say some padding. I want 0 at the top and then 30 to the left and right. 0 to the top and bottom and then 30 to the left and right. Right, so now let's go on to target our showcase. Showcase there. Showcase, I just want to give it a height of, let's say 300 pixel, and then with showcase I want to target our h1 in showcase, which is this h1 here. Welcome to our website. So let's call it showcase h1, and then this time with the h1 I just want to give it a font size, let's say 250 pixel, and then let's change the line height. Let's put it to 1.3, and then the next thing that I want us to do is just change the position to relative. Right, if you come in here, you will refresh, you will see it's looking like that. So now let's go ahead and target our content. This is our content here. With our content, I just want to say it's an ID of content. I just want to position it relative. Position relative as well. So now let's just add some margin to our showcase there to the top so that we can move it a bit down. So with this showcase, let's just add some margin there. Margin to the top. Let's say to 40 pixel. You do 40 pixel, refresh. See, you got your margin there. So I just want to move it a bit down. Let's actually change this to, let's say 60. Right, you can see it's down there. Right, so now let's go ahead and target our button. Let's go ahead and target our button here. So we know we got the class name of btn there. So this is btn, the class name of btn. With btn I just want to display it in line block. Right, and then I want to change, let's say the color, it's white, the color there, and then let's check the text decoration. Since I don't want the other line, so let's set it to none, and then let's just give it some padding. Let's say to 10 pixel, 20 pixel. Right, and then let's just add some border. Let's set it to 1 pixel solid, and then whitish, and then let's give it some margin to the top. Let's add some margin to the top, let's say to 30 pixel. You come in here, refresh, see you got your button there. So now let's actually go on and target our services there. Again, this is just pure CSS, that's why I'm moving a bit fast. So let's just move down to our service ID, services. Now we got services there. So let's put some margin to the top, let's say to 40 pixel. Let's add some padding to, let's say, to 30 pixel, 10 pixel. Right, and then let's position it, let's say to relative, and then let's give it a width, let's say a width of 98%, and then let's move it to the left. Let's just give it some margin to the left, let's say 0. Let's just put 0 to the left. Right, and then if you come in here, refresh, you see you cut it down here. Right, so now let's move on to our edge, our header rule here. Let's just put some styling to that. So we want to call out our ruler. Let's just, with our ruler, I just want to give it some margin to the left, margin to the left, let's say to 30 pixel, let's say to 20 pixel. Right, 20 pixel, and then you move it down there. So yeah, now let's actually target our servers h1 and all that, h1, and then these divs down here. So the first thing that I want us to target is our servers. So we servers as h1, servers as h1. So let's just put some margin to the top, margin to the top, let's say to 50 pixel, and then the margin to the bottom, margin bottom, let's say to 30 pixel. Right, and then I want us to target our servers as div. I want, since we know we got 4 of them with the same class name of services, and then they both got their unique class name, so I want to target all of them calling services, and then this time I just want to give them a width. All of them I just want to give them a width of, let's say, 20%. Right, I want to display them in line block. I want to display them in line block, and then give some padding, right, to 10 pixel, and then let's add some margin to, let's say 10 margin, let's say to 10 pixel as well. Right, and then let's position them, and then let's position them to relative. Right, so if you come in here, refresh, you see you got them there. So this is looking perfect so far, looking perfect so far. So let's go on. Now I want to target our services. I still want to target our services. This time I want to target our h2. With our h2, I just want to give them a font size, let's say to 20 pixel, and then I want to give them the margin to the bottom. So margin bottom to 20 pixel as well. Right, and then I want to target our services paragraph, which is our p tag, and then change the font size. The font size this time, let's make it 15 pixel, and then change the margin to the bottom, margin, let's say to the bottom, let's make it 20 pixel as well. So if you come in there, refresh, see you got it like that. So it's looking perfect. So now let's go on and target our servers individually, our div individually with their unique class name. So we start with the first one. Just since I want to change the background of each, I want to give them each a different background. So call that, which is servers 1. Service 1, I want to give it a background, right? This one I just want to give it a background of F, let's say FF4500, right? That's orange, that's the color I want to use. And then let me call the others. The next one, which is servers 2, again I want to change the background there. So this time I want to give it FFG700. That's the color I want to use. And then the next one, which is services 3, I want to give it the background, change the background color. This time let's say to B4C 516. That's the color I want to use. And then the last one, which is services 4. So I want to change the background to, let's say, to 00FFBF. Right, so if you come in here, refresh, see they got both. Let's say services 3. No, so with services 2 I didn't spell this correct, so that's why it's dropping services 2. So just make sure you fix that, then refresh. As you can see, you got it right there. So now let's actually change the color, since you can't see that. So let's just change the color of all our services. Come down here and then change the color to, let's say, to black, right? And then refresh. You got them there. So you got that right there. So what I want us to do is just fix this a bit. Our title there. Now let's just fix our title. Let's say title, let's just move it to, let's give it some margin to the left. Margin to the left, let's say to 20 pixels. Right, and then let's just change the font size of our H1 there. Title H1, let's just move the font size to, let's say, to 16 pixels. Right, got it right there. 16, let's make it 18. Okay, let's make it 18. Perfect. So now we done with styling our content or our elements there. So let's actually go ahead and add some animation. So the first animation that I want us to start is giving our animation to this. I had one there. So I want to come our header, showcase header 1 there. So I want to come down here. So let's actually go ahead and create our animation. And we already know for whatever animation you have to create an animation block for it. So a keyframe block, so let's just go ahead keyframe, and then this case let's just name this heading, and then I want that, so I want it to come from, let's say, from the top to -50 pixel, the top -50 pixel, and then I want it to go to, let's say, top 200 pixel. Right, so we have to come in here and then call it. So we have to call animation, and then the name is the heading, which is the same name here, and then the duration, let's just make it 3 seconds. Then if you come in here, refresh, you see it's coming down there, and then it's dropping. See, so let's actually change this to maybe 160 pixel and see how it looks. Bang, then there, and then it's moving back up again. So we want it to stay here, so we add forward our animation fill mode there, and then there, and then it should stay here. We want it to stay there. right? So we're done with that. Let's now move on to this. And then what I want us to do is, we know that it's inside content. Just come down here and then create a keyframe block again for it. So this is keyframe, and then this time let's just name it, let's say content. And then this time we want it to come in from the left, right? We're coming from the left. So from, let's say we want to the left, let's give it to, let's say negative 1000 pixel there. And then we want it to end up at left at 0, where it is at the moment, right? We want it to end up at 0. So now let's come in here and then call our animation. Now animation, the name, we know it's content, right? And then we want it to take 3 seconds again. Come in here, refresh there, see there, as you can see it's coming down at the same time. Perfect. So now let's actually style this. Over there we actually added a read there, sorry, just change that to, where is it, read one, read there, right? So you know we want to, once you hover it, we want to rotate it, right? So now our button, let's actually, where's our button? Our button is down here. So want to come down here. So now we want, once you hover it, so our btn, once you hover it, we want to add some transition to that. So once you hover, let's just transform. We want it to rotate it, transform, and we want to rotate y. So let's give it an angle, or let's say 180 which is 180 degree there. So we want to rotate this y. Rotate it y. You can see rotating y there, right? So let's actually add some keyframe. So we have to create a keyframe from our bottom, since we want it to come in. So down here we just create a keyframe, call this btn, and then we want to disappear. We want it not to show, and then we want it to come through. So this, I just want to change the opacity of it. So our btn, we want it to come from, we want to change the opacity. So the opacity, we want it to set it to 0, and then we want it to add up at the opacity of 1. Alright, so let's add our animation there. Animation, we know the name is btn, and then we want it to last 3 seconds, right? Just refresh this, and then you see it's coming in 3 seconds there. But then we want it to wait for this to finish, and then change the opacity there. So we want to give it a delay of 3 seconds. Since we know our other animation are taking 3 seconds, we want it to, and then set it to forward, which is our animation fill mode, right? Refresh, you can see it starts. So you see it's coming in, but then we want it to not show at first, so we have to change the opacity, add the opacity to our btn in here. So let's add the opacity, let's change that to, let's set it to 0. Set the opacity, as you can see it's disappeared, and now it should come in. Alright, so now let's add some transition to this hover effect here. Since we want to add some transition to that, so now once you hover it, let's actually add some transition property. We want to add to this, which is a transform, transition property, transform, which is this one. And then we want to transition duration, we want it to, let's say, transition duration, we want it to take 2 seconds. Alright, fresh, you can see weight coming in there, and then once you hover, it's taking like that. Alright, so you got it there. So now let's actually move down to this. Perfect. Let's actually move down to that. Now let's move down. We know it's servers here. The servers. So let's actually create a keyframe block for that. Let's just come down. Let's say here after servers there. Let's say here after servers there. So we want to create a keyframe for that. So keyframes, let's just call this servers. Then the keyframe that I want us to do, we want it to start from, we want it to not show, we want it to wait for this. So this, the animation that I want us to add to this is, we want it to not show and then wait for this to finish before it comes in. So let's add our animation to that. We just want it to add opacity. We want it to change from the opacity of 0 to opacity of 1. Right, and then now we also have to add the opacity, set this opacity to 0 like we did to the button. And now let's actually call our animation, which is, we gave it the name of servers, and then we want it to last, let's say we want it to last 3 seconds, but then we want it to give it a delay, let's say of 4 seconds. Give it a delay of 4 seconds, right? And then if you refresh, see it's not there, then it will show there. So this we actually have to edit in our servers, our whole servers here. Yeah, here. Alright, and then we want to set it to forward, and then change this, delete that, add it to opacity here, and to change to set that to 0 so that the whole thing can disappear. Right, then see that this one are coming in, it's done, and then it should come in. Right, that's perfect. So now let's actually add to this. So now, not to be mistaken, let's just copy this since we know it's for the top, and then add it somewhere here, paste it there for you not to get confused. Right, so now let's create our hover effect. So we want on services, once you hover it, so let's call that we want services, right? But once you hover, right, let's just change to transform, but this time we want to scale them, since we want to give it a bit of scale them. So we want to let's say 1.3, right? And then if you refresh that, then once you hover, wait for that coming in, our pattern is coming in, and then it's coming in, and once you hover, see it's being scaled there, scale, but then we want the one that you are hovering it, we want to be in front. As you can see, this one is zooming in, but it's behind this. So we want the one that you are hovering to be the one on top. So to do that, we change the Z index. The Z index, let's set that to 10. Z index to 10, and then let's add some styling. Z index, and then let's add some more styling to this. So let's say we want the box shadow. This is just some other styling, some box shadow. Let's say we want to set it to 1 pixel, 1 pixel, 3 pixel, 3 pixel, and then whitish, right? And then we want to change the border radius. The border radius, let's actually set it to, let's say, to 10 pixel. Right, so now once you hover, you see it's coming in there, and then so now you see once you hover it, it's zooming in, and then it got the border radius is changing, some curve there, and then you got your box shadow there. So now let's just add some transition to this, just add some transition to that. So what I want us to do, we just come into servers. So the first thing that I want us to do is change the cursor. I want it to be a pointer, right? If you come in here, once you hover in, I want you to get a hand. So if you refresh, you see once you are here, you got an arrow, but once you hover, you are getting a hand, right? You're getting a head there. So now let's actually add some transition to that. So I want to add transition property. We want to add a transform, and then we want the transition duration. Let's actually set it to 1 second. Right, refresh. See, it's coming in there, and then that. And then once you hover, you see you got your transition there. So you can see it's now smooth. So yeah, that's all. I think we cover mostly everything. You got your animation there coming in, your button, and then this, and then once you hover, you got yours there. So yeah, that's it for this tutorial. I hope you find it helpful. If you did, make sure you give it a thumbs up, leave us a comment down if you happen to have a question below, and we will definitely get back to you. And if this was your first time, then please consider subscribing so you don't miss out on any content that we will be posting. So yeah, that's it. I will see you guys in the next video. I'm out. Peace, love, and unity.